very important issue in talent discussions is prediction. For example, upper limb absolute strength, which is a good indicator for tennis serve speed. Upper limb absolute strength, though, even absolute tennis serve speed, by no means predict success in tennis tournaments of a professional tennis player, or even differentiate between already successful players, given that they have similar speeds. For example, if one cannot serve at all, okay, this is an indication that he's not a really good player or that he will fail as a tournament player. Predictions also are highly related to the study of genes. Despite the promises of the field of genomics, no consistent way was found to identify genes with performance. Another potential area of interest is the various locations of the brain. Many interesting findings were discovered there as well, but no definite answers were found. Another line of research that is very interesting is the big population studies that followed thousands of participants for many decades, trying to connect future accomplishments with prior test results. No consistent success was found there as well. Finally, an interesting line of research is about comparing world-class performers with everyday people that decided to go beyond their capabilities. In many such cases, the performance demonstrated by the, as they are called, just plain folks was mind-blowing. Let's see some examples. Chao Lu, the Guinness World Record holder for reciting 67,890 digits of pi or pi in 24 hours and 4 seconds, based his achievement in many traditional techniques of memorizing which he improved, and he even intends to publish a book to help others memorize more efficiently. Just a note here, pi has infinite digits. Okay. Supposedly, that's a very interesting idea. If we connect numbers and letters, for example, one is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K is 11, okay, and so on and so forth. In the pi, in the digits of pi, one can find all novels of Dostoevsky or all the works of Shakespeare. That's a bit mind-blowing if you think about it. In the same interview, Chao Lu claims it took him about 1 year to memorize the digits, but presumably he invested much more time before to develop and master the techniques of memorizing which he discusses. Not only do mental strategies lead to adaptations that allow for impressive achievements, but physical adaptations may enable high school and college students to dramatically increase the average of 20 push-ups they are capable of. Erickson, in a 2009 study, refers to adults who have been able to complete over 6,000 push-ups after special training, and the current record is 46,001 push-ups in just over 22 hours by Charles Servizio in 1993. Servizio is a retired teacher, and he was hardly an athletic talent, with his high school wrestling coach assigning him push-ups as punishments for poor performance in tournaments. In 1993, Servizio was 43 years old. Interestingly, one notices how past records in sports, even gold Olympic records, are not only nowadays easily broke, but even amateur athletes perform at a much higher level, as Erickson in 2006 study tells us, in a much higher level than previous Olympic record holders. The sub 4 minutes mile run of the Olympic athlete Sir Roger Bannister in 1954 is an achievement that isn't likely to make it to the local news nowadays. The current record is at 3.43 minutes, let alone grant someone the title of Sir. Likewise, in the USA official diving website, one finds the phrase, while a double somersault from the platform was considered dangerous in 1904, today's divers are completing flawless reverse 4.5 somersaults with ease. As it is doubtful to conclude that within 100 years the human body evolved so much, one may instead be skeptical as to what exactly talent represents. In both athletic and cognitive domains, there is no single factor that makes a difference in the final result when talking about expertise, as Rossum in a 2009 paper notices. Since this is the case, a conclusion may be drawn that precisely because one can't always know exactly which factors count more for all people, even if some factors are correlated with predisposition, one is not justified to refer to talent as a unique determinant of high performance. This is in line with Van Rossum's concluding remarks in a 2009 study that being labeled talented is thus not a prerequisite for becoming a successful athlete. The same appears to be the case for cognitive domains, according to Wallace and Maker in a 2009 study, who prefer to stress the potential of adequate teaching rather than students' abilities per se. Carol Dweck and Ellen Leggett in a 1988 study are more direct. Intelligence is not a fixed commodity given at birth. With appropriate teaching and mentoring, all pupils can become better thinkers. It would seem that the most significant parameter predetermining future performance is current motivation, along with practice hours, especially when they are combined with deliberate practice. Take Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, for example. Drass, in 2009, notices, the elder Mozart, Mozart's father, would place 10 dried peas in his son's left coat pocket, and for each successful attempt at a difficult passage, Mozart would move a single pea to his right pocket. When he failed on any piece, even if it was the 10th repetition, all the peas had to be placed back in his left pocket. Wolfgang had to begin anew. To do this, to study that hard at any age, you need tons of motivation. What to do with talent if you don't have motivation to study as hard as Mozart did? But today we call Mozart a super talent without actually knowing what he went through. Motivation seems to be a form of talent. That is, some people have it, some people don't have it. In addition to that, there are productivity trajectories which have been around for decades or even centuries that show the accomplishments of experts in relation not to the age but in relation to the years that they have been engaged with a specific activity. Interestingly, the productivity trajectories are the same or very similar among all the experts of any specific discipline if we correct them by engagement and not by age. That is to say, not all productivity trajectories are the same across fields, but within fields they are very similar or identical. Such fields are music composition, writing, scientific work, writing, etc. Talents are channeled by interests, said Hunt in 2006. Indeed, an enduring factor influencing performance is motivation. Erickson et al., in their classic 1993 paper, identify zeal as a component that might even have a hereditary component, but as discussed earlier in this video, it is too restrictive to view motivation as a fixed component. High school students who excelled in math or pursued them to a higher level were more intrinsically motivated already from an earlier age, and motivation contributes to academic outcomes independently of both intelligence and achievement, as Gottfried and Gottfried in 2009 note. Again, here the enduring question takes the form: which of the two factors leads to the other, motivation to success or success to motivation? As a matter of fact, motivational effects, heredity apart, can be viewed both ways. On one hand, motivation, as was discussed previously, may lead to excellence. Perceived excellence on behalf of the environment or even of the individual, on the other hand, may motivate the individual to actually excel, a self-fulfilling prophecy, or even lead to the attainment of excellence itself through the flow state the performer experiences, which increases motivation, as Csikszentmihalyi found in a classic paper in 1990. Csikszentmihalyi combines an Aristotelian Epicurean idea of happiness with the effort people are willing to invest, even in practice, to increase competence in both cognitive and physical skills, so that they will experience this euphoric feeling of the flow state. This is relevant to the critique Carl Anders Ericsson has received that he studies only successful cases to prove deliberate practices' importance, as Hambrick et al. Mentioned in 2013. However, it is important to focus on two things. Are great performers genetically predetermined? If not, what do they do in order to become successful? Let's not forget that studying successful performers may well backfire. They, simply put, could indeed be talents. The real methodological issue in all talent and expertise research, again, is that Western scientists try to base their models on observations, which is a kind of witchcraft. Talent, or the lack of it, are the working hypothesis, not the finding. Even the definition of talent is conditional upon the considerations put into its own examination. Therefore, attention needs to be paid to the likely circularity of the methodology involved in its study. More specifically, addressing some of Hambrick et al. 2013 arguments, the crucial question, or what is at stake here, is not whether deliberate practice, 10,000 hours of well-structured study, or any other relevant method is sufficient. The big challenge is to counter Hambrick et al.'s explicit argument that some normally functioning people may never acquire expert performance in certain domains, regardless of the amount of deliberate practice they accumulate. I argue both here and throughout this work three things. A. There is a method, the distal method, according to which everyone can acquire world-class contributory expertise in any domain. There needs to be a clarification here. For example, I'm referring to people that do not have objective obstacles. For example, one that uses a wheelchair and wants to be a tennis player, he or she can be a world-class tennis player playing in the relevant tournaments, but not, for example, competing against Federer or Nadal in a tournament like Roland Garros or Wimbledon. B. Predicting or explaining which individuals will become the best world-class experts, the best of the best, is, simply put, another question. So, I see it like this. Everybody can become a world-class expert, but maybe it has to be more studied. So I see it like this. Everyone can become a world-class expert or performer, but there need to be more studies if everyone, whether everyone can become the best in the world in a specific domain. Okay, like number one in tennis. I could say that anyone could be ranked at the top 100 of the ATP rankings, but the issue is that that doesn't mean that everyone can become world's number one. That remains to be seen. Okay. And C, becoming the best of the best among world-class experts is not a priority in research as opposed to how one becomes a world-class expert. It's very important to be a world-class expert neurosurgeon. That's very important, and this is where research focuses, but it's not the research, it's not what the research focuses on. For example, while it is extremely important to be able to have methods to make people world-class experts in neurosurgery, because we need good neurosurgeons, if you become the best neurosurgeon in the world, so to say, if we can measure this in any way, I don't know, this is something that research does not deal with it, and I don't know if it's relevant anyways to because it has social implications, it has very strong value judgments, and so on and so forth. Another element someone would then wish to examine is whether the mode of study of experts, undeniably this mode is the deliberate practice, is useful to just plain folks. Here arises a difficulty. Deliberate practice reveals how experts study, not what. All too often, however, the what question is just as important, and the deliberate practice model, apart from accepting that people study increasingly difficult tasks to induce adaptations, does not recognize exactly what kind of tasks. Carl Sanders Erickson and other researchers simply refer to demanding tasks that teachers construct. Distal method is destined to answer the what question. Sometimes I feel that the quality of the debate on deliberate practice, when we discard the content, may be reduced to the saying, two bald men fighting over a comb. So we should focus as well to what should one practice, not only how, which is of course important, but also why.